Boy, it's happened. It's the war. Get to the shelter. Dear God. Dear God. Somebody call Aaron.
Well, hello. Crusty Crow back again doing another one of my hot mics. It seems like it's been forever since I've done one because it freaking well has. Been too busy. Not that relevant crap hasn't been happening, but I've been happy to just let others voice their opinions on it because it often echoes my own sentiments on such dramas that we see over the last few months. However, today I'm making the time. There's a lot to go on about, guys. Did you know we're at war? I didn't know we were at war, but apparently we're at war. Your war toys are at war. I'm going to explain to you what this war is actually looking like to the old crow from his different perspective. It's just my way of doing my rant. Maybe you saw It's Chad and you saw him do a car rant like I did today, and you go, you know what? That looked like it felt better getting it off his chest. Maybe you watched Darren the Toy Enhancer give his final thoughts on Balaverse the other night on his rant. Yeah, people do it. You know who did a really good rant? 3-star Draw, and it wasn't a rant. 3-star Draw did a couple of videos about the issues with Hasbro as he saw it. I liked them. I liked all of this. I like people's abilities to say their mind. I even like it when people that I don't normally like have that freedom to say their mind about the products and things like that. However, it doesn't need to come to a war. There are things that happen that make these things become a war. And I'm going to point them out. This is my call out the bullshit video, all right? So this hot mic, I'm calling out this stupid friggin' war as it is. Stay tuned. So let's talk about one angle of war. We'll talk about the most obvious war, which is Hasbro versus the friggin' world right now, okay? Pretty much is. You'll notice these two guys look really natural together, really cool together, yet one is not G.I. Joe Classified, it is Valiverse. And one is G.I. Joe Retro, really, not Classified, but okay, let's go Classified. Him versus him looks like a pretty good fight, I don't know, but the point is, it's ironic the war and the wedge driven between the markets for G.I. Joe and Valaverse over two toys that complement each other so friggin' well. But yeah, it is what it is, because what it breaks down to, people, is the money. Who wants, who gets, who's going to receive, who's deserved, and who is flat out stealing from you, right? It comes down to the money. And that's what the war is. It's a money thing. Hasbro's at war with every little guy out there, trust me, because they represent a new threat in a new market of toy consumer. Toy collecting keeps getting bigger every year and year and year and year and year, right? But the quality has to keep improving. And the problem is when you are the big guy on the block and you are setting the bar for quality and everybody else is coming subpar, you can kind of gracefully go along and say, yes, look at those little companies. Good on you, little company. I cheer for you, little company. You'll go so far. Only so far. Right? Those days have been done since like the 90s, probably even, maybe even the 80s. I don't know, but definitely the 90s, like late 90s, 2000s. You couldn't get away with that anymore in today's market. There's too many startups, Kickstarters, brand new guys coming out there, guys who see the market needs for new toys and have the ideas and the concepts, the patents to do them and do them better. Hasbro has learned that you need to be concerned about things like that. So you've got to compete, and compete they can. Compete they have done all their existence, right? Between them and Mattel, you knew your toys came from a certain region of the US, okay? So now in the modern market of toy collector, they have to accept a few different things, right? They have to accept, one, kids aren't the only ones actually unpackaging these things, collecting them, and critiquing them. In fact, play only weighs so far into the figure the way it does with a child. With an adult. Play is one of several criteria that they didn't need to concern themselves so much about the competition's ability to deal with back in the day. But now, everybody's looking for the better way. New, better mousetrap, right? Lots of good new mousetraps, boys. Invent a better mousetrap was always what they used to say until somebody did it. Now what do you do? Right? So now Hasbro is facing an entire enemy out there coming from different directions, who all present better mousetraps sometimes. So what do? They're going to saturate the market with their toy and distract you with large numbers, bright colors, and the most powerful weapon they have in their arsenal: your memories and nostalgia. All right? And it is a great weapon to have, because you know who doesn't have that? All the new companies. What memories do you have of them? What can you fall back on? Most things come down to you compare them to another toy. And where are you usually comparing them? Star Wars, He-Man, Mask, Thundercats, Voltron, G.I. Joe. So if we can understand that about Hasbro and the competition, then we can see what kind of threats are presented by, say, a company like Valaverse, wherein my buddy Aaron did state his opinions, and those were his opinions. They're not mine, they're his. I do have opinions on this. I say all's fair in love and war, man, right? I am a soldier. Tactics are tactics. Dirty tactics work just as well as the clean ones, sometimes even better, right? And does Bobby Vala play dirty tactics? Well, he presents the truth in a persona that didn't go over well with a lot of people. I myself don't watch Bobby Vala a whole lot. I've seen a few of his videos, and maybe I was just focusing on what the videos were trying to show me versus what was being said, and I missed something. But I do hear, some validity to the argument that he is kind of a heel against Hasbro. I also know there's a reason, because his relationship with Hasbro has been very volatile in the past, right? There's a whole controversy there, past employment and dismissal, and venturing off on one's own to purposely kind of make an enemy out of your former employer, really, if that's what it breaks down to. But the man had a vision, and I say the vision's good. Now, quality control issues are a different issue entirely. Hasbro has to acknowledge that some of those better mousetraps that they used to dismiss and now have to pay more attention to because they're coming from other companies that are gaining more momentum, those better mousetraps often prevent quality control issues now. So either they ought to get quick to adopt these things and get their own patents to do these things their way and remain competitive, or they have to allow a positive reputation start surpassing their own. Now, Bobby sees this. Bobby Vala understands how the game is played on a marketing perspective as well. Yes, he's coming off very abrasive to the Hasbro fans, to the Hasbro pure, and to the Hasbro lovers. 100%. Very abrasive. To the toy collector, what he's trying to do is spark debate, get you to have second looks at things, and ask yourself if maybe he can fit his product in better than you thought he could, right? And he's doing so where I guess you could say his ego is on display at times. And again, having not watched the video, I'm just taking people's word for it a lot of times. And it's not just one guy that said it, it's quite a few. Yeah, okay. Sometimes you got to be a dick to make your point. I understand that. But there's a point where being a dick gets taken too far. All right. The issue Bobby has is that in taking it too far, he has no idea where everybody's boundaries are. He has no idea. He just needs to deliver his message because he's not Hasbro. Hasbro is a well-established big box toy company and has been for decades, generations. He is trying to get there, and he is fighting for every scrap because there's a personal grudge there, of course, but they are the exact same toy idea. It's a war toy. It's a military toy, and it's got a creative sci-fi element that gets broadened up, which eats up a lot of design money, plastics, and you need your consumers for that. In order for Bobby Vala to truly show what his product looks like when he imagines it on its best day, he needs to be able to take money off the table. And right now, Hasbro is doing everything they can to grab all that money. It's all ours, motherfucker. Right? Like they would, like any company would be if they were still hanging on to a dominance over a market. Okay? So I understand where Bobby Vala might do the hard flex, walk around with a bad attitude. And I understand where he might start speaking poorly about Hasbro, their products, and HasLab Rattler. I do understand that. However, it's an error that they keep making. And I accuse guys like Iron Ken of the same thing. I have opinions about Iron Ken that I keep stifled because I respect the guy has a right to put his opinion out there the way he wants to, and he has a right to express his values the way he chooses to. I watch Iron Ken because every now and then he makes a really good point. He really does. But I have to filter through a whole lot of offensive bullshit to get to that point. Maybe that's the case with Bobby. I have no idea, guys. I don't put that much weight into it. I apologize. Right? But when these guys are doing their best to promote their opinions or their line, and they go after Hasbro, there's a large group of people that are going to take that very personally. Like, how dare you? That's my heart right there, Hasbro. Don't you dare. Right? It's like a purist cult of Hasbro. And I don't mean it in a detrimental way. I mean it as in it's a sign of appreciation and respect that still draws back to that childhood nostalgia. You have a history with Joe. That is your family, probably. For a lot of you guys that are taking offense to these things, right? I know I take offense to these things because that's the case to Joe with me. But I can step outside of all of that, look at it and call it for what it is, guys. It's a marketing war, okay? And shots fired and shots are going to go low. And some of your favorite people are going to be casualties. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? That's war, all right? I'm overstating it by calling it war, but my God, that's what it's being made out to be. How many times do we need to hear the statement we're talking about fucking toys here? Right? Who was it? Laser Pants, I think, said that. I don't recall, and I can't pay credit to who said it because it's been circulated so much and said in so many appropriate situations, and here we go again. Yet I get as riled as the rest of you about things like maybe a certain deluxe set, I Was Once a Man Cobra Commander, that is available to the public for all but 3 minutes. All right. So that's another dirty game that Hasbro plays as the big box bully that, in my eyes, that Val has got to point out from time to time. You make great figures, Hasbro. You really do. You make characters that I have no desire to own. Guys like Serpentor. And you make them absolutely appealing, desirable, and to me, worth shelling out a considerable amount of money when I want them like that. And Bobby Vala does the same in his way. Both of you are playing exclusivity games to some degree in the Vala community and in the Joe community, and I can't really speak to that because I've only just recently started trying to hunt Valaverse figures, the Action Force line, and it is a bit of a challenge, especially, but I count Canada really screws up a lot of it anyways, just like it did with Hasbro. But the way Hasbro promoted the Once a Man SDC exclusive, the confusion leading up to what it was even going to be. Was it an SDC exclusive? Was it going to be this? Was it going to be, oh my God. The convoluted mess leading into the information about how a consumer can expect their figures. That I hold direct against Hasbro. And we're not even an hour after trying to order a Cobra Commander. Do I care? No, I wasn't ordering it. I was checking. Down South 77 and Aaron the Toy Enhancer were going to order. I don't know how many they got. I don't know how many Woody 222 got. I don't know how many Same Times Toy got. I don't even know if Triple C got one. Cobra Crimson Commander, I hope you did. I know you wanted one, buddy. Here's the thing. That's dirty pool, Hasbro, because of the way you elevated this thing. Now, is it the first time it's friggin' happened? No. You are following this up right after Tier 1 release of amazing patches for Rattlers. A 300 and some odd, like 350 top price Joe Haslab. That was basically no surprise to anyone, yet you let it go around like it was a big mystery for a while. Good on you for keeping your hype lukewarm. Patches. So now you've followed up a HasLab with a very limited exposure to one of these shenanigan type guys. I don't know. Do you really believe there's no such thing as bad press? Because I don't think Bobby believes that at all. I think Bobby is actually taking worthy shots at Hasbro sometimes, not all the time, and just exposing what we're all kind of choking back sometimes. He does it abrasively, and I don't respect abrasive sometimes. I feel like sometimes guys like Bobby or Iron Ken use language or terminology that, while they say is attacking the brand, really attacks the consumer. All right. And when that happens, when you start calling the people who aren't on your side, as you see it, sheeple, cocksuckers, or homosexuals, or whatever it is you call them, or, and I'm not talking about Bobby on that one, and you have to resort to just, the only way you can elevate your opinion is to friggin' drown the others in hate speech and slander and speculative negativity. Nothing that's actually proven in fact, just choking it down with your own negative opinion. If that's the only way it's done, then I'm sorry, it doesn't sink in. Your point gets lost in offense. If you openly embrace offering offense to people so you can get your opinion in there, don't act shocked when they take it, and then don't feel like you're being pushed out of a community because you antagonized it. No one is going to write you a greeting card and welcome you back in or out of a community that you constantly poke and call them idiots, call them stupid, wasting their money on the things they love, slam everything they love, and call them morons if they still love it after you're done preaching about it. That kind of approach to this kind of war will not win respect. Hasbro will win that war every time, just through not even addressing it. They will not mudsling. They will not answer mudslinging. Any good corporation wouldn't. think on that for a second, because right now, all mudslinging is getting is attention, video likes, and honestly subscribers. And it's not malicious. It's just the way war brings drama. Drama is kind of what people are looking for sometimes when they're bored with their toys. Are we really this friggin' bored with our toys, guys? Honestly, I know I'm not. I am bored with this scenery right now. That feels a bit more like we're talking about war now, doesn't it? All right, guys, as opposed to a war toy shelves all in disarray. So if we were to examine just the approaches, the goals of Hasbro and Valaverse alike, and by Valaverse, I'm not just talking about Valaverse and guys like McFarlane Toys, Dragon Toys, Joy Toy, Delta 17, Operation Longbow, any toy, right? All the other smaller toys. If we were to look at their goals, we would have to agree that ultimately the goal is to make money. Like I said at the very first of this, right? That is the goal of a toy company, is to make money. The secondary goal is to achieve your dreams of building your toy, sure, but you're going to make money in order to do that. You know this. So with Hasbro, the approach would be continuing to be the biggest kid on the block. And this is what I was saying earlier about the survivability of this whole might makes right kind of approach to driving a toy market. Hasbro will saturate you with a billion different lines till something sticks with you in order to drown out your cash supply to give the competition anything, right? So that to me is the might makes right approach, and it works only now on a passive market. The passive market being grandma and grandpa looking for a new toy for their grandchild when they go to visit. People experimenting with the idea of even buying a toy because it looked kind of cool and they may think it looked good on their desk at work, things like that. That is what I consider to be the passive market, and that's where the might makes right approach is. If you saturate toy shelves with nothing but your brand between Marvel Legends, Star Wars, and G.I. Joe, Transformers, you're probably going to hit somewhere, right? And you're going to dominate that market through the might makes right approach. And that is something that Hasbro needs to become less reliant upon. That's why they now have PR teams and HasLab release videos and live streams and crowd interaction because they know they have to evolve. All right. Bobby Bala also knows this. He does the same, damage control on his end. But the difference for his approach is he's not the big kid on the block. He used to hang out with the guy, then the guy and him had a falling out. So he's kind of like the Karate Kid now. He's up against the big guy, but instead of training under Mr. Miyagi, he is very much Cobra Kai. He's going to sweep that leg every time, motherfucker. So stop putting it out. Just stop putting the leg out and he'll stop sweeping. All right. But the problem is Hasbro's got their feet planted on the ground every time in the same stance. We can do it if we stick to how we do it. All right. So I don't include a company like McFarlane into this because McFarlane had his own established reputation through comics and creation before figures and all that. I deem him different, but he is money that Hasbro would probably like to have had, but he's direct competition in the DC line versus their Marvel line in that respect, right? So how will Hasbro ever win over the DC comic collector market the way they've won over the Marvel one? I don't think they can. I think they have to just accept that that's not ever going to go their way, right? So if the direct competition is War Toys, then I guess it's really just Valaverse and the new Patriot Force, maybe Fist, and a few others on that 6-inch scale acting as competition. Hasbro doesn't need to be worried about anything else after that, right? Super 7, yeah, that's different. HasLabs are doing well, right? They don't need to worry about it. Except they do, because Valaverse is, like I said, not the only way they are getting competition. HasLab vehicles will take funding. HasLab vehicles are going to be a gamble, and already this Rattler, it's got some controversy around it, doesn't it? And to follow up with that Cobra Commander debacle ordering system, guys, you're not going to hear the end of that for a while. But let's focus on HasLab. Where is their direct competition there? Well, who's to say it's not Valaverse, but let's move Bobby off the hot seat for a minute and Ace and Ramen Toys. All right, it's a matter of time before Ace and Ramen Toys, sorry, just Ramen Toys in general, solves all these shipping boundaries that keep people from ordering their stuff just through exorbitant shipping. That is a ticking clock before it's solved, and it doesn't have many ticks left, I am sure. All right, there's money on the table. They want it. They'll find a way to get it. There's a HasLab competition right there, isn't it? Hasbro needs to be aware of that. Now, you don't see any mudslinging between the two because the two complement each other so well, and they are aware of this, and there's a respect to how they will promote themselves. Again, Hasbro won't mudsling. Well, I haven't exactly heard Ramen do any mudslinging either to promote theirs. They've elevated themselves without drowning someone else. There's a lot of other companies that are going to do that. So long as Hasbro plays, hey, we won't talk about you, you don't talk about us approach. I mean, read between the lines on some of their innuendos, and maybe there's some jokes against other lines, but never directly attacking another line is good business. These guys are following it. So that allows these guys to make room. So where are they threatening Hasbro? Well, AWOC isn't threatening Hasbro, is it? Well, it's a collector toy, and you only have so much limited shelf. How many AWOC did you buy this week? How many Joe did you not buy that week when you bought those AWOC? Right? That's the simple math. There's a whole department, I am sure, in the Hasbro boardroom whose job is to analyze all the trends and values of who's purchasing what outside of their brand and why, like census surveys and all of that. And then you have to apply a degree of psychology to that, and they have to listen to what these guys report back and sit there and say, you know what, COVID did this to everybody's personal budget. This much was spent on toys, and this is how much was spent outside of Hasbro by the average consumer. And these were the competition. This is why, blah, 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 right? That has to be an ongoing problem that they have to keep looking at with Hasbro as these new startup companies like Delta 17, Patriot Force, Operation Longbow, Monster Force, goddamn Mythic Legions, as all these guys continue to pick up momentum, Hasbro has to keep looking at what they're losing. So of course, they go back to the old tactic, saturate the market with more and more toys, right? This wave release was an absolute nightmare for the average consumer, just like it was last time, because it was back to back to back. For you Americans, $25 a pop is fine for a figure, sure. But when we start talking about 75 just to make sure you got your 3 figures before they disappeared off the shelves because it's a hot item, then it starts to be things where you're like, well, hang on a second, I hadn't planned for this. You would expect a rhythm, a rhyme that could be at least inform to the consumer what to expect. But Hasbro cannot do this. Currently, there's a lot of little lines that have a lot of production problems because they are small lines with small budgets and small support. A lot of people waiting for Ramen or other lines, Monster Force. I won't name which ones they're waiting on. Longbow, I think, is one for sure. Waiting for these guys to get the production out because these guys are juggling as small companies. Hasbro pretends like they don't have to juggle, and then they drop every fucking ball. So that's why your Once a Man Cobra Commander sold out within 3 to 10 minutes after being, praised and said, you guys will have access to this. Get excited, you're gonna have access to it. But the premium members bought it all up, and now everybody who went on there expecting maybe if I was sharp with the timing, I could get myself one. They walked into a sold out page. I looked at the clock and said, what the hell? This would be understandable if it was the first time for Hasbro to do this. You dropped a ball, bad, don't do that. But they continually do this. And then they ask Emily, Tony, and Lenny to speak to the consumers and act like everything is worth ignoring because look at the brand new batch of toys. And people aren't falling for it because other competition are being more transparent, more genuine about their issues. They are fully transparent. Lenny tries to be transparent when he is interviewed, when he's allowed to be talking about certain issues Hasbro has. all right? But the corporation itself will not fully be transparent with you because they don't want to give anything to the competition to act on. If I tell you I am having a weapons molding issue, then I am telling Bobby Bala, or I am telling Todd McFarlane, or I am telling Joy Toy, or whoever, that whatever they're doing is about to work really well against my product. So increase your production really quick, right? Like there's a whole strategy and tactic to every nuance of this. We as the consumer are going to continue to take it personally because these are our G.I. Joe toys. And for some reason, they need to be either beautifully augmented or at war. We have to choose, right? And so you get a lot of reactions to a lot of quality control issues, a lot of mudslinging, things like that. And you would think it wouldn't affect Joe on every level, except you have to look at the market after classified and go, okay, where else is it hitting, right? We have Joy Toy, which is a very interesting line that I will be reviewing soon. But they also have some military style figures that Hasbro is probably very aware of right now. Operation Longbow, Delta 17, Patriot Force, all these other guys are hitting both 6-inch and 3 3/4. They're going to be a problem. They are going to be temptation for your money as opposed to what Hasbro is going to produce on that. So they have to constantly be going, develop, develop, develop. We know this. So to me, it comes down to what is acceptable collateral damage between the companies, right? With Hasbro, what is acceptable collateral damage for them in a year? It would be to have negative responses to quality control issues that are ongoing. They know they can expect that. That's acceptable collateral damage for producing things quickly, right? They know that there's a dependence on nostalgia and that it's volatile and fragile. Like these are characters we've known for 40 some odd years, right? And that the fan-driven consumer is very volatile, composed, but not so much the new toy consumer, the younger generation, because they don't have that history with Joe. So they can try and slowly try and shift focus to that new market, but they know they run that risk with the fan base of the old market. And they can manage any loss of sales that are a result of either of those two things. And manage, I just mean they can anticipate and plan for that, right? What they can't deal with, to me, in my opinion, and this is all opinion, guys, unacceptable collateral damage for them would be personal attacks against staff, harassment, and bullying. To accept any of that at any level, just once, would definitely be detrimental to Hasbro as a company. It would result in a lot of staff investigation lawsuits, harassment investigations, and a complete exposure of your corporate breakdown because you allowed one of your staff to be harassed on, say, a YouTube video or something and didn't protect them. That is preventable, but you have to be aware that is unacceptable collateral damage. Secondly, a loss of sales due to an inability to adapt to the market and the trends that are happening within the market, right? If Hasbro hadn't made a couple of woke characters, they would have been ignoring what the social pendulum was doing over the last few years, right? So they released a few characters that didn't go over that great with everybody because they thought, no, well, you just did that because, okay, well, they have to be aware of that because they have to constantly be trying to bring that next generation of consumer in. So they can't accept any loss of revenue that is due to them just ignoring what is obvious in front of them as far as their markets. So multi-billion-dollar missteps or multi-million-dollar missteps that were preventable by paying attention and listening to your branches like a psychology department, things like that. For the Balaverse, they have similar issues going on, but they're a smaller market. They can get away with a lot less than Hasbro can, right? And because Bobby is doing what Chris Cox won't, right? And he is constantly speaking to his product and constantly pushing that product the way he is. Yeah, he doesn't get away with it as much because more people know and hold him accounted because they see his face and they see his lips moving and they are hearing what he's saying. But he is choosing those words specifically, and that is something I understand people taking issue with. Let's go back to the other room. Alright, screw it. I was going to tell them, sitting comfortably in my chair, about what are unacceptable losses for smaller toy companies in this war, but turns out you are running the show again today. So I'll tell you. Yeah, so I just covered what I think Hasbro can have as an acceptable loss, what that would look like for acceptable losses, but unacceptable losses and what they would look like would come out of ignorance, really, and things like that. With Valaverse, what an acceptable loss, and by Valaverse, I'm talking all other competitive lines that are looking to dip into Hasbro's money and say, this is ours now, as far as war toys go. What an unacceptable loss for them right now would be is to not capitalize on every single mistake and misstep that Hasbro does. If Hasbro has a QC issue, you need to ensure you don't have a worse one, right? Aaron the Toy Enhancer recently pointed out, just like with his Super 7, he suffered a devastating, painful damage to a toy where the damage was not understandable to him. It came from a lack of quality or control as he saw it. And it was very upsetting to him because Aaron has a connection with his toys that a lot of people do. And that can't be misunderstood by a toy company. You cannot ever act like people don't. You have to assume we all do. That's the only way to play it safe. So when Hasbro has a quality control issue, you can't have a worse one. All right? You have to be better. When Hasbro has a shipping issue, you better have yours solved. Take advantage. Get your stuff into the loophole they just created. You know, get those orders in on people that just had to buy a fig that day. Because my God, if I can't get this Once a Man Cobra Crimson Commander, well, I'll just go through the Vala catalog. What would I have spent that money on? Oh, here's so-and-so. What's that? There's a new leader for Valaverse? I'll order him. Right? Sergeant Rock from the new Sergeant Rock figure from McFarlane Toys. Well, that looks like an enticing little centerpiece too. It's only $35 and I can get it today. Thank you, Hasbro, for pissing me off with an order. Right? What happened with the Rattler Tier 1 release? A lot of people said, I think that's my last HasLab. You know, that's kind of a slap in the face. So what's an unacceptable loss? Understanding that if you're going to offer a vehicle at this point, don't put bullshit accessories with it, right? Impress them. Show them that you do the considering that HasLab did not. These are the unacceptable losses of small companies. You can't afford to lose a dime credited to any of those mistakes right now. So yeah, today, Hasbro kind of fucked up. They fucked up large with their Once a Man Cobra Commander figure orders. And they fucked up recently with the Rattler mystery vehicle and the Tier 1 patch releases. So expect guys like Bobby Vala or Iron Ken to get very vocal about that stuff, right? And expect the odd fan to get very angry. It is a war, guys. It's a war for your money. Right? And your money means something to you, but also remember your toys mean something to you. And then remember, we are talking about fucking toys here. I overstate everything by calling it a war, guys. It is only what we make it out to be. And if it's going to drive you into a frenzy where you're ready to play pokey chest with somebody in real life, it's time to step back, take a breath, and play with your fucking toys. I'll see you next time.